Richard Varga of Slovakia is the world's fastest swimmer in triathlon. He has dominated professional swim packs for over a decade. He's a 4-time aquathlon world champion, 2-time Olympian, and can't be found anywhere else but the front of a swim pack. In this video, we're going to have an in-depth look at what makes Richard Varga so fast by focusing on 3 things that he actually does that makes him a faster swimmer, and we can do them too. That's right, 3 things that he does that we can too that can make our triathlon swimming better than ever. I'm Siska with Siska Training Systems. Let's take an in-depth look at this. Number 1, Richard Varga does some really interesting things when it comes to his open water swim technique. A lot of people, especially when they're new to triathlon swimming, they have this misconception they need to have a certain breath pattern in the open water. For example, breathing every 3. They think they need to have a perfect high elbow recovery. This is all good, but it's more important for pool swimming than open water swimming. In the open water, you have all kinds of elements that can affect you that you don't have to deal with in the pool. Chop, other people swimming around you, light in your eyes, not having a straight line to follow at the bottom of the pool. One thing that Richard Varga really focuses on when he swims in the open water is to go with the elements. He changes his stroke technique according to what he's dealing with. And a lot of times that results in him having a very kind of unorthodox straight arm recovery. You'll be able to pick Richard Varga out in a crowd because of his straight arm windmill, almost windmill type swim motion when he swims. Now this gives him a huge advantage because he doesn't get thrown off when it gets choppy out there or people are punching him in the face. He can just adapt to the elements by having this straight arm recovery, and we'll take a look at that right now. Here, Richie's just cruising at a leisurely 115 per 100, and you can see in this chop, he's having to adjust a little bit so that he doesn't get his hands caught in one of the small waves, and we'll take a look at him from the side. Nice and relaxed, dealing with the elements, over the top. You can see him how he sights as well. He puts it into his stroke. Just beautiful. Now we'll see him at race pace, and you can see much smoother water, so his stroke is again a little bit different. That's right, guys, we don't have to have a perfect high elbow in the open water. We need to be able to adapt to the elements. When people are punching you in the face, when they're pulling you down, if you have a straight arm recovery, you can definitely avoid some of the things that could throw off your rhythm and your stroke. And when you're thrown off in the open water, you can swallow water, you can get it in your eyes. You know, you have to be able to be really flexible out there. And that brings us to our second point. Point number 2, swim flexibility. Now, I'm not just talking about being able to roll with the punches out in the open water. I'm talking about physical flexibility. Let's take a look at Richard in some of these clips right here. Notice how his shoulder in relation to when he takes a breath is right there next to his head, just like this. A lot of people who don't come from a swim background, their shoulders when they breathe or when they pull, they have this full-on arch right here. And look, guys, when we take a breath like this, we're hitting all kinds of water, you know, which is not very aerodynamic and will slow us down and just stop that propulsion that will set us forward. One thing that Richard really does well is that when he goes and grabs water, he can put his arm in that correct position so that he can grab maximum amount of water, easily get a breath, and then pull himself forward. Something as simple as increasing your shoulder flexibility can have a huge effect in your swim speed. I've touched on this in previous videos that have gone viral, and I will share that with you right now. Let's look at some stretches that can help us be much more flexible in swimming, which will create greater swim speed. Right here we see the streamlined stretch, getting the arms as close to the head as we possibly can, reaching for the sky, going from one side to the other to just get a slightly deeper stretch. The classic Michael Phelps stretch, pulling the arms over the head. Again, we want to go from one side to the other to get a little bit of a deeper stretch. Guys, don't stretch past your comfort zone. You have to keep it comfortable. As you continue to do these stretches, you'll be able to push the boundaries more and more. Here, just trying to isolate, basically doing that same stretch, but just holding on to something so we can go a little bit deeper. Twisting, just like I am right here, can kind of
make it a deeper stretch. I've been swimming all my life, guys, so I can go pretty far. Don't feel bad if you can't get this kind of stretch immediately. I went from double arm to single arm to get a deeper stretch. When I was leaning against the fence, I kind of just let my chest drop so that I could get deeper into the shoulder. Pulling the arm across the body to the front is another great way to hit the outside of the shoulder muscle, and again, twisting to go a little bit deeper. This is a classic shoulder stretch. I like to push my elbow into the ground so I can go even deeper, but again, we're just hitting that shoulder from another angle.
Guys, if you follow that simple shoulder flexibility routine, 5 minutes every single evening before you go to bed, you will start to notice that in your swimming, you will have much more ease of grabbing that water. You find that you can put yourself in the correct technique. Sometimes people know the correct technique, but they physically can't do the correct technique because they're not flexible enough. And everybody can increase their flexibility by just doing this simple routine. Point number 3 is swim training. Now, I have the privilege to call Richard Varga a friend, and over the years, I've trained and swam with him quite a bit. So that gave me the chance to really get an inside look at what this guy is doing that makes him so fast. Now, just like all classic elite swimmers back in the day growing up, he was swimming 50, 60, 70K weeks. And that, of course, really helped develop his swimming. But now as a triathlete, he swims substantially less. And maybe that's because he's so good and doesn't need to swim so much. But this can also help us. A lot of us are working, we're busy. We don't have the time to put the huge volume in the pool. But what we do have is some pool time. So in that pool time, we need to make it effective. And the mistake that I often see with age group swimmers who are trying to do triathlon is that they just get in that pool for 30 minutes and they focus on drilling. Yes, technique is important as we discussed, but swimming, just like cycling and running, is a cardio sport as well. And if we're not fit, we can't swim fast. So when we get in the pool, we need to do some quality to take our swim fitness somewhere to perform. Now, since I've trained with Richard, I'm going to share with you some of his favorite swim sets as a triathlete. One of Richard's classic sets is 15 times 100. Now, let's look at his speed. He usually does that in a short course meter pool on an interval of 120, and he's swimming 101s, 102s. Now, for us, if you look at that, that's about 18 seconds rest. So set an interval that gives you about 15 to 20 seconds rest. Hold your best average for that duration. Now, that's a classic threshold set, but we also need speed. Even though we're triathletes and we're going long, even if we're doing Ironman, we still need some speed involved in our swimming. So another set that Richard often did was a set of 30 times 50. Look at that. Did you notice that we were doing 1500s worth of swimming there? And again, 30 times 50 is 1500. This is an inside look at his Olympic distance training. All right, because the Olympic distance triathlon is 1500. That's another thing that I wanted to add real quick. You need to train specific to the race that you're doing. But with that said, even if you're doing Ironman, it's important to do speed so that you train all energy zone systems. If you have your top end speed high, you'll be more efficient at the lower end. So he'll do 30 times 50, and he'll do that on an interval of 40 seconds in a short course meter pool. And you can see the guy going, and he'll do that where he'll go 250s comfortable, 150 all out. And the comfortable 50s, he'll swim around 30, 31, and then the fast 50, he'll swim around 26. So if you're on an interval of 40 seconds, you're not getting that much rest. So we need to do the same kind of thing. Let's go 30 times 50 and have that same kind of rest. And we're almost actually getting the recovery while we're swimming those moderate pace 50s. But then we got to bash out that fast one and then actively recover as we go throughout the set. So that's another threshold type set, adding a drop of speed in there. And what you find happen is that you'll train a little bit of VO2 doing that. And another classic set that he liked to do was something simple as 6 times 300. All right, we stretched it out a little bit more. That's 1,800 meters of swimming. All right, so now we're talking about stretching it out, working that aerobic zone a little bit more. But we're classifying this as a key session. So again, we're trying to look at our best average over this distance. All right, I would give yourself 45 seconds to a minute rest in between these 300 meter repetitions. Now we can modify this for Ironman the same way. Follow that instead of 15 times 100, Let's stretch it out to 30 times 100, slow down the interval a little bit more, but still keep the rest right about the same. And now we're getting specific to Ironman. And we can do that with those 3 sets. You know, the 30 times 50, we can change that to 60 times 50. We can change the 6 times 300 to 6 times 600. And we'll get more, you know, those simple adjustments will make us specific to the race that we're doing. So I'll put these workouts on the screen for you right now. Remember guys, drilling is important, but in order to swim fast, you have to train fast. So in summary, when we're talking about training, guys, use your pool time effectively. If you can only get to the pool 3 times a week for 30 minutes, then do a 5-minute warm-up and then do a modified version of these sets. You know, don't waste your time with just drilling the whole time. Yes, again, we need technique, but we need to have that speed involved as well. All right, guys, so we talked about 3 different things that can help us be faster swimmers in triathlon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If there are any questions that you had or wanted me to go more in depth, I'll try to get back to you. Just leave them in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until next time, I'm Lucas Siska, and take care.